Okay, so now I'll be explaining about access modifiers. So in the first video, I talked about encapsulation, that object-oriented programming protects our data. And these access modifiers will show us how this is actually done. So this is called the access modifier, public. So I'll just remove this code and just remove all this. And there are three access modifiers. One of them is public, one of them is public, second one is private, third one is protected. Okay, so what does public mean? Public means that these attributes can be accessed outside of our class. Suppose here c1 dot wheels equal to 10. I'm accessing the wheels attribute of the c1 object, which is a part of the class car. I'm typing c1 dot wheels equal to 10. So I'm able to access and modify the attribute with using the if the access modifier is public. Suppose if it's private. Now this will throw a compiler error. I will not be able to access c1 dot views because this this is outside the c1 the class definition. This will throw a compiler error. And protected, we don't need to study about protected now. This protected is only useful when we study about inheritance. Remember I talked about inheritance, encapsulation, and polymorphism in the beginning. So for now, we'll just look at public and private. So for an example, public. Now this is default, and now I do job even dot read. Now I save. Go here and compile, and then I run it. See, now we have 10. And suppose I change it to private now. Save it, compile it. See, we get a error thrown. It says declared private here. Int car wheels is private within this context c1 dot wheels equal to 10. So what it's telling me wheels is a private attribute, and I'm trying to access it from the main function, which is not possible because it's private and it violates our encapsulation principle. So this is what private and public access modifier is. These actually work with methods as well. Methods are just functions inside a class. Suppose I make this public, and then I can do this multiple times. By the way, I can do it public. I can do this public. Now wheels is public. Now remaining is public. Or now if I do this as private, now only wheels is public, and then the remaining are private. I can do it how many ever times I want. Suppose I put these as public and this as private. Now I try to call the get speed method. First I'll just set the speed, or else we can have another method which will automatically set the speed. Void set speed. This will take an input of speed int float underscore speed, and now this speed is a local variable of this function, and now speed equal to underscore speed. That's it. The speed is an attribute. This speed refers to the class attribute. This underscore speed is a local variable of this method. After this method is after its execution is finished, this will get cleared from the memory. We won't have underscore speed anymore. But then this speed will still retain its value because it's an attribute. Now I do stop this. I do c1 dot at speed 50.10, and I save. And this will work. This will work. Just run it. Management. Okay, this is working. And now I do set speed, comment this out, and now I do set, get speed. I want to get the value of the speed. Compile it. See, we get an error. Void car get speed is private within this context. See, our get speed method is private, and I'm trying to call the get speed method. It violates encapsulation, so we're getting a compiler error. Now if I do public again, save it, compile it, and then run it again. Now it's not throwing an error because this is public. So this is what access modifiers are. It's a very helpful in hiding data, so that people without the right permissions cannot access our modifier data and do malicious activities. Oh, I forgot to tell you one more thing. Suppose the suppose the attributes are private. They're private for the stuff outside of the class, but they're still accessible for everything in for the methods inside the class. Now I put this whole thing as private and these two as public. I can do this how many ever times I want. I can this is valid as well, but I'll just remove the public one. Now this is private, but then this method, which is a part of the class car, can still access these attributes, even though these are private. What private actually does is that it stops us from accessing the attributes outside of the class. But then these methods are a part of the class, so they still have access to this. Now I do speed equal to underscore speed. The set speed method and the get speed method also access this the speed. Now if we run this, we won't get a compiler error, even though the attributes are private. Now let me just clear this, compile it, then see it's working. Just keep in mind of this. A lot of people get confused here. Like, even though this is private, how are we accessing it in the methods? Because the methods are also part of the class. Now if I try to do this, like c1 dot fields, uncomment this, I'll get a compiler error because I'm doing it outside the class. The compiler error. Yeah, I hope you understand.